Hello and welcome to the 35th episode of the Pirate Rugby Pod. We're just 33 YouTube subscribers away from the big 1,000, so a huge thank you to everyone for tuning in and following us so far. You know the drill, but if you like what we do, please like, share and subscribe.
Yes, we are so close to that 1,000 mark. We're also now on 520 Twitter followers, 575 TikTok followers and 56 Substack subscribers, which is the one I'm proudest of because it's the hardest damn thing to promote in the whole world. Links for everything are in the Linktree link in the description box below. Don't miss out. We have also got a huge treat coming for everybody this weekend. Stay tuned on Saturday. Can't say what it is yet, but it's a special bonus podcast. You do not want to miss it. All should be revealed on Twitter later this week, so make sure you give us a follow. But now to introduce this week's guest, TikTok sensation, 100 million views we are claiming. Leading the next generation of rugby content creation is Rose Mendham. Rose, thank you so much for being here.
Hello, thank you so much. I'm so excited. What you guys are doing is absolutely amazing, and I'm a huge fan of the podcast, so this is so exciting to be on here.
Thank you so much. You're so kind. So tell us a bit about you then, Rose. So what's your story getting into rugby? What got you into rugby content creation? What do you love doing about what you do?
So kind of unusually for an English family growing up, both my mum's side of the family and my dad's side of the family were rugby fans. It's kind of how they met. So their first date was a Bath game at the Rec. So I feel like since then, I've just been raised on the sport, particularly by my dad. I was drinking Guinness from about the age of 8 years old. And I guess the rest is history. I moved up north when I was very young. So because of that, I've always been a big Sale fan, going to the AJ Bell every weekend, kind of really heightened that. And I have brothers, but I feel like they were always big football fans living up north, big city fans. So I was kind of like my dad's son, who he got to watch rugby with him and took me to all the games. And yeah, I think I got into it that way. It was purely through my family. And since then I've loved it. And I would speak to my friends about the games. I'd bring them to games and they would be like, you're really good at talking about this. We can tell you're really passionate. We can tell you really love it. Why don't you start just posting a little bit on social media? And I had a TikTok account anyway, where I post silly little videos. And I started posting rugby videos and they kind of blew up a little bit. I feel like being a female rugby content creator is fairly rare. There are some brilliant ones, but it's fairly rare. And I feel like that I kind of played to my advantage a little bit, and I've just been carrying on from there. I kind of started off doing like little trending sounds and like making them applicable to rugby, and then I kind of wanted to use my voice a little bit more, and I started doing game reviews and all of that, and I guess I built up a following, and I feel so honoured to have done so because there's an incredible community of rugby fans and rugby creators on social media at the moment, and the people you meet and the people you get in contact with, I feel like it's really helpful in growing the sport, especially with my generation, where obviously we know rugby in England especially has been struggling slightly at the moment. So I think in kind of getting my generation more excited for the game, it could be really beneficial. And that's something I love doing, I love promoting as well. So yeah, I love doing it. I love talking about it. It's just such a fun thing. I'm so passionate about it, and doing the social media thing never really feels like a job or anything like that. It just feels like a hobby that's actually turned into quite an exciting opportunity. So yeah,
when I first found your account, it was a case of like, oh, someone's like actually doing it. Someone's doing TikTok rugby content properly. I'm sure there's loads that I just haven't found, but like a lot of other like stuff on TikTok just kind of felt like well, we have to do TikTok now. Okay, just put that on TikTok. That'll be fine. Whereas you're like actually doing TikTok. I don't really get TikTok. I think I missed it as my generation, like as people 3 years younger than me kind of do it. What's if you want to succeed on TikTok, what's one trick that you would say, make sure you do this?
I think understanding your following is really important, which kind of sounds really broad in general, but I kind of went through a phase where I would post everything. I'd post reviews, I'd post news, I post updates, I post players to look out for, all of that stuff. And I noticed certain stuff doing really well and certain stuff doing less well. And I think if you build up good interaction in your comment section, if you interact with your followers a lot, you gain like a really loyal following and a little bit of community on your own page, and you get like people consistently commenting and the same people coming back. And I think so for me, it was like game reviews and predictions, which sounds quite generic, but sticking at that I feel like I got a loyal band of followers who would comment the same things and comment like their own opinions. And I think interaction on TikTok is so big for growing your account, because the more comments you get, the more it's going to be chucked out onto people's For You pages and the more people you'll find. And there are quite a few people doing rugby content creation on TikTok, but if you find your niche, so my niche has always been reviews and predictions, if you find that niche, like, people will come to you because there's not loads of rugby content creators. So if you find your unique thing and you stay loyal to what your followers want, then it's quite easy to succeed. I think consistency in posting is also a big thing, but that's for anything. So yeah, it's not easy. And I think the reason why I got so into it so early was just because it was just such a thing with my generation, and I would post on it anyway. It just kind of felt like normal to then post rugby stuff. But it's fun, it's confusing, and it can be a bit toxic. But yeah, just, I think, identify your following and you're good to go.
Yeah,
it could be as toxic as Twitter, to be fair. So
yeah, that's true.
Okay, so speaking of getting our viewers and things to interact with us, let's talk about our moments of the week. So my moment of the week was I was in Gloucester on Friday nights, taking in Gloucester versus the Ospreys in the Challenge Cup quarter final, and I got recognised. So not necessarily in a good way. So this isn't the only podcast I do, for some people who don't know. I'm a Scarlets fan, and I do the Scarlets fan podcast. So I was a Scarlets fan at an Ospreys game. So some Ospreys fans recognised me. Now, it wasn't bad or anything, but they were all like, "Hey, you're the guy from the Scarlets pod." And I was like, "Yeah, I am." And at first, because they all like started pointing at me like, "Oh my God, it's you." And I was with the guys who do the Ospreys pod. And I was like, "How do they know who I am? Did you tell them?" And they're like, "No, they just know you from the internet, you idiot." I'm like, "Oh, right, okay." So that was my moment of the week. And I also met and chatted with Squidge Rugby, who was also there. So that was cool.
You met Squidge?
Squidge. Yeah, lovely guy. Anyway, and what was your moment of the week?
My moment of the week was the Leinster game. I was lucky enough to get a ticket. I got a ticket, I think, they went on sale on the Monday. I think I read that they sold something like 20,000 tickets to season ticket holders, and then they sold like another 10 or 20,000 the next 24 hours. So thankfully, I was one of those lucky people after the season ticket holders to get a ticket. Only paid 25 quid to go to the game, and it was just a really, really good, proper. It was like as close as I've been to a test level atmosphere in quite a while. I had been to a previous Leinster game, and the atmosphere is very flat. It was against Stade Francais. It was very, very one-sided. But I think the ticket sales for this kind of reflected the importance of the game. And like from moment one, like everybody was glued in. The atmosphere is really good. And it reminded me definitely of Ireland v South Africa when I was there in Paris, and like we were celebrating turnovers, like we had scored a try, and it was like that for the opening, I'd say 20-30 minutes against La Rochelle. So yeah, really special occasion. Fair play to Leinster for putting on a good show, because there have been a lot of not rumors, but a lot of speculation. There have been people saying that the atmosphere in the Aviva for a lot of rugby isn't great, but yeah, it was a Leinster game, and it was cracking atmosphere. What about yourself, Rose?
It's funny you bring up the Leinster game, because mine's something also about the Leinster game, a little bit more specific. I'm very passionate about fan reaction to rugby. I'm very passionate about like the fans loving the game and making rugby a more enjoyable environment for the fans. And I think watching at home James Lowe's opening try for Leinster and the reaction from the stadium, I'm quite an emotional person. It like brought a tear to my eye. Just the pure passion and how crazy they went. And then my Irish grandma spam texting me on WhatsApp about how excited she was. Just that whole moment, like I'm not a Leinster fan, but it was just pure joy and elation, and just what a moment. I think it's just one of those rugby moments for Leinster fans that they will just love for years and years to come. I just thought it was brilliant, and I just loved seeing how happy everybody was. I mean, maybe not La Rochelle fans, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, let's look at what some of our listeners wrote in with their moments of the week. So Julia, our good friend Julia, says, Gabriella Nigrelli, the hooker for Bristol, she threw into a line-out, she scored the try off the back of the driving maul, and then she kicked the conversion herself.
Oh my gosh.
So the perfect moment for Gabriella in that game. Thank you so much for that, Julia. Leslie says, The Super Series sprint is back this weekend. And again, more rugby back. We're just going to have to ignore it. It's too much rugby. We'll just have to add it to the guide and then move on. And then Rian Lowe, ever heard of him? You know, kind of a famous YouTuber. He writes to us to say Bongi and Mbonambi crying after the World Cup semi-final in Chasing the Sun is his moment of the week. And did you see that Chasing the Sun is going to be able to watch legally in the UK soon?
Yeah, so Jim Hamilton mentioned it on the Rugby Pod this morning that allegedly they're very, very close to getting a broadcaster in the UK. I assume that's /Ireland. I know Sky showed the first season, so I'd be expecting them to show the second, especially because Sky will be showing those, like everyone's building up the South Africa v Ireland games this summer. So what better way to kind of get fans engaged? So I would say it's nothing confirmed, but yeah, according to Jim Hamilton, it is going to be announced soon. My bet is on Sky. But yeah, hopefully there is a way, because I know people are finding ways around it, but I think it'd be great for just a normal broadcaster to pick it up here. So it'd be easy. And apparently the viewing figures in South Africa are just absolutely crazy. Everyone's saying it's even better than the first one, even though we know the ending, right? But I can't wait. Like, I haven't seen any of it. Have you seen it, Rose?
I've seen a little bit of it through certain links that I've been sent. But no, I mean, with the episode, with like the semi-final and everything, I literally had South Africans say to me, like, we knew the outcome of the game, but with how well it was shot, we thought we were going to lose. Like, it's been a very successful second season of Chasing the Sun. I've seen like big South African men like cry over it, which we love to see. We love that emotional reaction to rugby. So yeah, I'm excited for it to become officially available in the UK. It'll be good.
Yeah, I can't wait. Speaking of emotional reactions, there's been a lot of emotional people over the last 24 hours or so, since 6 o'clock last night, when a certain transfer
6:01.
was 6:01. I know, I was refreshing. I was like, you said 6 o'clock, you bastards. Where is it? Anyway, Jordie Barratt has confirmed his move to Leinster on like a 4-week contract or whatever it is, something like that, from December to whenever. And is it fair to say that this has been accepted with unanimous good grace and excitement in Ireland?
I think it's fair to say it has not. Look, personally, I think it's an absolutely brilliant move for all parties. And like, I think what everybody's forgetting here is that he's a New Zealand player who's actually, basically extended his contract in New Zealand until 2028. And I think this type of hybrid model where they allow the player to go on sabbatical is exactly what they need if they want players to stay in their home unions. Like, I know Marcel Coetzee did something similar with the Bulls. I think it was either last season or season before, where he spent a couple of months playing in Japan. Japan Rugby League One. And I know Lucano Am played in that tournament as well. So I think it's a really good, because like the money you get in New Zealand is not the same as the money you get from an IRFU central contract. It's simply not. So I think this is a really smart way of getting players to commit to the country and playing in the country, but giving them like a week and a half to go abroad and make probably $500,000 or something. So I think from a New Zealand rugby perspective, I think it's a really smart move. I think this is something that definitely more South African teams should look at doing. But anyway, apart from that, yeah, it's gone down like a lead balloon, I think, in Munster. Probably for obvious reasons. But I think people's biggest gripe with this is that obviously Leinster have the budget to do this because of the sheer amount of players that they have on centre contracts, which has freed up more money that they can spend on these superstars. But I don't think it's like, I really have an issue with people saying that this is the IRFU not treating all the provinces. Like, I support all the provinces fairly. Like, I support Connacht, the least funded Irish rugby province, and it, like, seeing this announcement yesterday didn't bother me in the slightest. I just thought, well done to Leinster. They deserve this because they've got so many bloody players. They've got such a good pathway system that they have this budget. And they have that budget because they're producing players that are top quality, so they're getting central contracts. And I think fair play to them. And again, from an overall Irish rugby perspective, I'm kind of almost proud. Like, I think people are. There's a very prominent Munster account trying to start the hashtag. Is it Saracens Leinster? What is it? Have you seen this?
I haven't seen this.
I think it's. Oh, I have
I'm
to
not
get
here
it.
for
It's
that.
like hashtag Saracens Leinster or something along those lines. But I think it's just so wide of the mark, and I think I'm just proud of it from an Irish rugby perspective to see where we were, like where Leinster were at one stage, where they were in a really bad place. They virtually hardly any fans. They weren't winning much, and now look where they are. They've got the budget to do this, and the reason they have that is because of homegrown players who grew up in the province and went through the school system, went through the academy system. Like, it's not just imported players. It's not just a massive benefactor firing a load of money out. So look, I think it's a great move. I think Leinster have to do it next year with that squad, honestly. But yeah, but also at the same time, you have to kind of understand where Munster fans are coming from. It is frustrating for them. But if they want more money in their budget, they're going to have to look at themselves and try to get more players through their own system onto central contracts. And that's something they have to look at from within. That's my take. What's your take on it, mate?
I kind of see both sides with the central contract thing. I mean, the sheer amount of money, I haven't seen the official amounts. The amount that
nobody knows the amounts as well. There are a lot of figures being thrown out on Twitter. People,
the amount that got said to me was 5 million on 9 players, which would, if that's true, that's insane. Especially when you consider the tax breaks that Irish players get as well. You'd think that all the money on top of that, that's almost an unbelievable figure. And I kind of see the point when people, you're saying about homegrown. The thing that a lot of people will be thinking will be James Lowe and Gibson Park. Yeah, what's homegrown about them? Josh Van der Fleer, etc. But I'm on the fence about
is from Wicklow, to be fair, though.
Okay. I'm on the fence about it because yes, they are foreign imports, but they didn't come to Leinster as 20 capped All Blacks and then just waited for the residency to trickle over. They came to not as nobodies, but as players that weren't going to get a shot at international level in New Zealand, and they've become international class. And in the cases of James Lowe and Jameson Gibson Park, arguably the two best players in their position at the moment in the world, and Leinster's what's made them that. I think the tell for me about how much money Leinster have got is the fact that they're able to go to the back-to-back World Cup winning champions and go, we'll just have your head coach if that's okay, and he can be an assistant for us. How about that? That's kind of the tell of where the money is. That's the difference for me. I'm coming at it from a Welsh point of view where I'm like, employ some coaches. We've spent plenty of money on players over the years. Let's get some coaches in. Because that's kind of where I am. A lot of people are upset about it, but for me, if you're going to have all the money, spend the money. Like, if you're going to be rich, do you want someone to go, I'll keep it in the bank and maybe invest in some property here and there, and, maybe get some interest? Or do you want to go, right, let's head down the Bentley shop. I'll have one of everything. That's what I would do. So this for me is like big dogs acting like big dogs. And I love the move for Jordie Barratt as well. Like, imagine you're Scott Robinson looking at this now and going, all these players going off to Japan to play what is generally accepted to be a lower standard for a year and then come back. Jordie Barratt has gone, now I'm going to go to the best club, arguably the best club side in the world, and prove myself there, play in Champions Cup, play in URC. I have seen some of our South African fans tweeting that he just missed playing against the South Africans in Super Rugby. Now they're not there anymore, so that's why he's doing it. I don't think that's true. Anyway, Rose, what was your take on it when you saw this news?
I'm kind of similar to you guys, where I've seen a lot of criticism. I've seen people on TikTok, I've seen people saying Leinster is showing off, and a bit of bitterness about that. I think obviously there is a lot of, I won't say jealousy, but a little bit of jealousy involved there. But overall, I think it's a really good move. Like you said, Leinster have developed these players themselves. They deserve to be able to reap the benefits of what they sow. And for Jordie Barratt, I think it's an insane move. What's his contract? So it's December till when? It's like
the end of the 2024 to 25 season. So he'll be there until like June.
Probably last day of June is when it will expire, I should imagine.
So he's also going to be there at a time when a lot of the island players might be being rested for the Six Nations or like out for the Six Nations and all of that. So I think for Leinster, it's a brilliant move because, and for Irish rugby, it's a brilliant move because these players who might be training with international training camps for the Six Nations, Jordie Barratt will be there available to fill in. And it's not like he's a bench player anyway. He's, I mean, in my opinion, one of the best in the world. So I think it's a brilliant move. I can understand the bitterness, but yeah, I think Leinster deserve it.
The hashtag is Dublin Saracens.
Oh, I'm not here for that. I'm not.
It's not trending. Like it's not a fair comparison. That like There is no salary cap. Like,
Well,
they're
that's
not
the thing.
breaking any rules.
A lot of people say like, oh, there's no salary cap, it's not fair. But it's like in the URC, it's impossible to have a salary cap. How can you have a salary cap? Pick a number, pick any number. 7 million. South Africans are laughing. South Africans go, oh my God, we could buy half of the entire Springbok squad for 7 million and not even be at the cap because of the exchange rate. Where, you know, and you've got like the Italian sides. Yeah, okay, the Italian sides have a lot of money, but you've got 3 different currencies. So what, every year you're going to readdress it and then go, okay, so it's 7 million euros, 6 million pounds, and whatever the exchange rate is that day, 20 million rand or whatever it is. I don't know the exact exchange rate.
Yeah.
You couldn't apply it, you couldn't enforce it. So I understand why people want it. It's just never going to happen, unfortunately, in my opinion.
And also, Leinster didn't win the URC last year. Munster won the URC. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't lead to success last season at all in Europe or in the domestic league, if we call it that.
Right.
Shall we move
Anyway,
on?
Let's move on. Let's move on. But that is definitely going to be in the thumbnail of the YouTube video, definitely. Let's talk Women's Six Nations. Where should we start? Let's start with the first game, which was England versus Scotland. Scotland versus England. So, Rose, you caught this one. The Red Roses, unstoppable as usual, down to 14 players again. Let's start there, actually. Do we need to talk about? I'm going to throw it out there. Are England a dirty team?
No. I think mistakes happen with every team. This is kind of my English bias speaking now. I don't think
we are biased on this podcast. Be biased.
No, I think, I mean, you also get that claim with England men's. I think mistakes happen. England are so far beyond others, and I think that's why maybe they get labelled being dirty. But I mean, mistakes happen. As talking about the game in general, as someone who's fairly new to watching women's rugby and absolutely loving it at the moment, being a Red Roses fan is certainly a breath of fresh air compared to watching England men's, which for the last nearly 20 years of my life has been heartbreaking and painful. But with the Red Roses, every time I turn on the television, I'm pleasantly surprised. I mean, yeah, we might lose a player off the team, we might go down to 14, like whatever happens, I'm always confident watching them that they'll get the job done. And I think there is a bit of a gap that needs to be addressed, and other countries might need a little bit more time to develop their women's teams. As we know, this is a developing practice with the women playing rugby. It's still pretty early days in terms of this becoming a big deal in the international world with women playing rugby. But I think the way women's rugby is heading at the moment, I mean, the Red Roses are there, and other teams kind of need to look to them a little bit. Their development programs are great. I think the way women's rugby is heading in general at the moment is really exciting. Like I said, I'm no expert on it, but every time I switch on the television to watch the Women's Six Nations, and of course the Red Roses, which is my team, I love it. I just think it's such an enjoyable game, and it's very different from the men's game as well. It's not like you're watching just a female variation or like just women playing the men's game. Do you know what I mean? It's almost a different sport, and I've been just absolutely loving it. I think last year and this year was the first years where I like properly got into watching women's rugby, and it's, yeah, I mean, I have nothing but praise for it. So apologies for not being like the expert voice on it, but all I can say is just turn on your televisions. The stigma around it being boring is so wrong. It's so enjoyable, and if you enjoy the men's game, you will love the women's game. It's just like a different fun variation of it. So yeah, that's what I've got to say.
With this game in particular, I think there was a lot of, not expectation, but there was a lot of hope that Scotland might give England a bit of a challenge. I think that with the winds and things and the conditions, I think Scotland really struggled to adapt to playing into the winds, and they made some poor decisions, to be honest. Were you a little bit underwhelmed with Scotland's looked like they'd taken strides forward this season, and they just kind of never threw a punch against England, really?
I think it's difficult when you start showing weakness against such a well-established side like the Red Roses. I mean, they know what they're doing. They've done so well internationally the past few years. So when they see weakness, they exploit it and they just fly. So, of course, it's disappointing from a Scotland perspective, but I don't think it's entirely, I don't want to say it's not surprising, but it's not something where I looked at it and was like, oh, this was really unrealistic. Like once you show a bit of weakness against a side that's that strong, it's difficult to recover. Obviously, there are points, well, a lot of points that Scotland need to improve, and they will do. I think even just playing that game, the experience of it is obviously going to help them in improving. But overall, I just think it was just a case of England being really, really strong. And we know that about them. And they just make it really, really hard for teams to come back when they are struggling, because they're just that well established. They're that kind of far ahead of everyone in terms of that, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. Okay, well, fair enough. I guess there's no point labouring the point on that one too much. We're still the champions of the Captain Dr. Rachel Malcolm fan club over here.
I saw the mug.
You saw the mug? We love the mug. Mug's still available to buy, I believe. I think it's now the biggest selling mug. Anyway, but I'll tell you who's got potential to sell some mugs, and that's Ireland women's team at the moment. Enda, is that the best ever Ireland women's performance?
Don't know about the best ever, but it was like a performance I think to be proud of, like a 5-try bonus point win. And it's something this team should be hugely proud of when you consider where they've come from and all the issues that they've faced over the last I don't know how many years. And another decent crowd as well, over 6,000 attendance in Cork. I think that's really positive. They've ended a 2-year wait for a win, the Women's Six Nations. And let's not forget the wooden spoon winners, I guess you put it, last year. So I just think it was a really, really positive result for Irish rugby and for women's rugby in particular, I should say. Aoife Wafer, and she was absolutely outstanding. I know you posted some stats. She was 105 meters gained, 84 post tackle meters, 10 defenders beating. She was just, and she was interviewed after the game. I think she was great, and she's saying that they are getting that backing now. She kind of recognized the backing from the RFU. Now I don't know how much of that was maybe just, I don't know, your boss is watching kind of thing, but I think that was important, especially in the context of where women's rugby in Ireland has been, and the transition it's going through at the moment. So yeah, a very positive day. Look, Wales have made a tough start to the Six Nations this year, but I hope this is a sign of things to come for the Irish women's rugby team, especially with everything going on now with Leinster. You hear, I know when David Nusafora announced that he was leaving the RFU, a lot of people were singing his praises, but obviously the one big caveat there was the state of women's rugby in Ireland. So when you consider all that and put this, that really puts this result, I think, into context. Yeah, good day for Irish rugby.
Not so good for Wales women, unfortunately. It was a pretty tough watch. Just quickly before I go on to that, I can imagine that there's some people in Irish women's rugby looking at the money that Leinster are just about to spend on Jordie Barratt and going, hey, don't forget about us. But from a Wales point of view, it's really disappointing. And there's kind of no excuses, because we've spoken at length about how the Irish women's team has faced struggles, and maybe there's a conversation to be had, does this result maybe start plastering over some work that needs to be done? Maybe we needed to cover that on a future pod, but there's kind of no excuses for Wales women. And it was alarm bells at the beginning where Johan Cunningham, the Wales coach, was saying, we need to believe that we can win this game. And I was like, hang on a minute. We're a top 5, top 6 team in the world playing against a team that picked up the wooden spoon last year. Why are we saying we need to have the belief to win? This should be a formality. And it was anything but. And Ireland completely blew us off the pitch. It was a non-contest. And some really worrying signs for Wales women, like the stat that I looked up, because I was chatting with our friend Dr. Harley Worthy over Messenger with it, and I asked him, when's the last time a Welsh winger scored a try? He was like, don't know. So I looked it up, and in the last 12 months, one Welsh winger has scored a try in 13 games. Wow, that's not good. 5 backs have scored a try for Wales in the last 12 months, and 2 of those are by scrum halves. So it's not exactly what you call backs-centered attack. We are literally a pack. And no, I was about to say we're not just a front row, because we've got Al Callans, a few other players, Bethan Lewis and others who are absolutely fantastic. But just alarm bells for Welsh women's rugby. We thought we were the shining light, or at least the women's team thought that they were the shining light in Welsh rugby when everything else was going wrong, and we just can't have anything nice at the moment, unfortunately. So look, I don't want to absolutely hammer them, but I don't want to praise them oh, you did your best. No, it wasn't really good enough, to be honest. So I hope they get a bit of a kick up the backside this this next fortnight until the next game, because 2 wooden spoons in 2 Six Nations in 1 year is not where Welsh rugby wants to be. Right, just rounding up some other women's rugby from around the world. So internationals, Spain beat Sweden 53-0 to retain Rugby Europe title, and Switzerland beat Ukraine 68-0 to win the Rugby Europe trophy. And then in Super W, Waratahs are still unbeaten. I actually caught the last 5 minutes of this. It was actually pretty good. They beat the Reds, whilst Force are into second after the Drua lost to the Rebels. And then in Super Rugby Aupiki, congratulations to the Blues, who beat the Chiefs 24-18. Okay, let's talk about some European rugby. So let's start with Rose. You watched UBB versus Quins in possibly the most JOUE game of rugby there has been and will ever be. Talk us through your emotions watching that one.
God, they were high. I feel like I didn't really know who to call going into it. I was very mixed because as much as Bordeaux have been performing incredibly well, Harlequins are one of those teams that can just come out of nowhere. And I feel like at the moment they're pretty hot and cold. They can have some brilliant performances, and then they've shown a couple of performances, especially in the Prem this season, where they've just really fallen off and kind of lost their chemistry a little bit. So I feel like I went into the game not really knowing what to expect, kind of possibly expecting a bit of a demolition job on Quins, and oh my goodness, we were gifted with, in my opinion, one of the games of the year so far. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. It was back and forth the whole time. I mean, it was literally till the very end you didn't know which way it was going to go. And then somehow Quins got the win. They played incredibly well. Their attack is just beautiful. It's a thing of beauty. I watch it and I weep. But I think it was, in my opinion, the game of the weekend in the Champions Cup by far. I think it was such a good advertisement for rugby in general. I've been speaking about this a little bit recently, and I've been talking about when viewers who aren't necessarily massive rugby fans switch on the TV, what do they want to see? And they want to see that. They want to see a game like that, a game with everything, which is what it had. It was end to end. It was attacking. It was exciting. It was tense. The fan reaction in the stadium was very passionate. I mean, obviously heartbreak at the end in the stadium, but just the atmosphere looked crazy. And I just thought, if I was a non-rugby fan switching on the TV and seeing that, I'd be like, I want more. It was just, I thought it was a brilliant advertisement for rugby, and I'm so excited to see what Quins go on and do and see if they can progress further in this competition. I mean, I know it's a long shot because the quality is so high, but if they pull out another performance like that, I wouldn't be surprised. I think be nice to see an English team in the final, I won't lie, but that might be a long shot. What did you guys think? Did you catch it?
I didn't manage to catch this one. Enda, will you have been travelling to Dublin at the time?
I was indeed.
Yeah, so
I missed it as well.
I've only seen the highlights. Go on, Rose.
Yeah. But I was just going to say, it's if you have time, it's one to watch on catch up, even just in the background, because there's just something. It's just there was no boring moments. There was no moments of stillness, as I like to say. Yeah. It was so fast paced, so exciting.
I'm pretty sure that in the instant highlights that got uploaded to YouTube, not every try is in it because it just wouldn't fit into 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's to do with the broadcast agreement. They actually leave a comment, EPCR, in some of their videos. So I think for 24 hours, they can't post the full highlights. They can only post those short. Yeah, I saw it's probably to protect, the broadcasters.
In the highlights for Bennett and Connacht, the first Connacht try isn't in the highlights, so that's why. Yeah. And
the same. And if you go to the pinned comments, yeah, it's to do with so it obviously kind of protects the broadcasters. So you're more likely going to maybe go back and watch the game instead of just going straight to
James from Osprey's Irie. This is why all the URC highlights for years were so weird, is because they weren't allowed to put the full highlights together. We've learned something, everybody. But yeah, it's crazy game. I guess with Quins, they're never going to die not knowing. They're never going to go out saying, "Oh, if only we'd tried." But UBB is just one of those teams where they can just switch off. It's so frustrating. I watch them a lot in the top 14 as well, and you're like, concentrate, guys. Yeah. Our friend Maz was in the crowd as well for this one. She's obviously a big UBB supporter. It was 29 degrees in the stadium. You saw them all there with their brollies.
Yeah.
And I swear, like Chris Busby had like sunburn by the end of it. I swear there were some players that were. I know that was in the Toulouse game, but I swear some of the guys had to be stretched out there just for. Oh, actually, Maz
That's
did
fun,
tell
Barrett,
me
just
that.
watching it.
Maz did tell me that some of the crowd had to be stretched out because they got heat stroke.
Wow.
Really? And here was me looking at the TV going, what lovely weather. I wish we could have it.
I did think like, oh, imagine watching that and then going for a drink afterwards. That would just be so. That's the life.
Dream day.
The Atlantic coast. What should we talk about next? So come on then, Enda, tell us about your day in Dublin at the Aviva. I guess your thoughts on the game and the experience that you had. Can anyone touch Leinster?
Not after that performance. Not after getting. I think La Rochelle would, even though they've had a poor season, I think by their standards, certainly they've had a poor season. I think they've had 12 losses so far in all competitions. So they don't seem like the same team they were last year. But I think that definitely it's Leinster's year, especially with the semi-final they have coming up in Croke Park. But before this game, I actually went back, and a lot of people weren't really talking about this, was that like Leinster went down to La Rochelle in the group stages and beat them at home in like torrential rain and horrible conditions. And I probably potentially preferred that game almost, because I don't know if either of you have seen it. Like it was just like they played to the conditions both sides, and there was just so much niggle in the game. You could just tell how pissed off Leinster were that they've been they've been knocked out by La Rochelle so many times in the last couple of years. And I thought that was their statement performance of the season, going down there, getting that win and putting in, starting Will Connors again at 7. And like his first tackle was a chop tackle, like, and then, then Niedermayer went for the exact same tactic this time and selected him. I thought that was just absolutely brilliant. I love those selections. You don't often see that, like you don't often drop a former player of the year, world player of the year, we should say, in Josh van der Fleer. But yeah, I watched that game, and I think after watching that, what I loved about that initial game from the group stage was that Leinster were up for the fight. They didn't back down, and they got the win. They got the hell out of there. They got the win, and then it just, like, as I said, from like the atmosphere there, you could, like, everybody, well, not everybody, but most of the people were there in their seats early, and there was just huge anticipation. It was early enough kickoff, it was around 5:30, but you could tell that the crowd were up for it, like from the first moment, which I think is really important. And I think, yeah, as you even touched on, Rose, like when Lowe got over, like there was such elation in the stadium. And I know there been a couple of comments going on about Raj getting booed. I think that was all just everyone having a bit of a laugh. Like,
it's part of the game, man. Like,
it's part of the game.
What Rose was saying about Rugby needs more of this. I want him to hit someone with the chair. Let's get more of this.
Yeah. Like, Irish fans have complete and utter respect for him. Like, they just did it. Like, because and look, Roger's winning that battle over the last couple of years. Like, he's like, so, like, I think Leinster fans were like, it was fine. There was nothing malicious in it. I thought it was great. But anyway, yeah, look, it was a fantastic occasion, and I think Leinster lived up to the hype. This performance was built on defence. The defence was absolutely outstanding. I can tell you, I was up in the top tier, but those Broward Shell boys looked pretty big, even from up where I was. And some of the hits, like Tariq Furlong putting players on their ass, like, it was just, you could tell that, like, a lot of defence comes down to attitude, and you could just tell that Leinster were up for this game, and there was no way they were, I think they were going to lose it. Like Hugo Keenan, I was nervous when Hugo Keenan had to drop out before, like, pretty close to kickoff, and then I thought Kieran Frawley came in and put an absolutely outstanding performance at fullback. Will Connors, as I mentioned, he was selected for a reason. He did his job. Thought that was brilliant. And a special mention, I think, as well to Ross Byrne. Like, again, I'd like to remind people, like, this is Leinster post the Sexton era, and what a performance he put in. I think he deals with a lot of bullshit in the Irish media and potentially some of the international media as well. I think he's a really good player, and he put in a good performance, and he was thoroughly deserving of man of the match. I was just happy for him, and he was slotting kicks for fun. Which a brilliant performance by Leinster, built in defence, and I think they're the team to beat now. I don't know what you guys thought of the game. Did you catch it, Rose?
Yeah, I watched it. I was just going to say, we know what La Rochelle's history against Leinster is like. So I was watching this game thinking, like obviously Leinster were winning, and I was thinking, La Rochelle are going to come back. Like it's going to be a harder game, surely. But Leinster just like nullified them. La Rochelle just couldn't get anything going. Leinster just crushed their dreams. They didn't allow them to gel. They didn't allow, and La Rochelle just looked. I mean, I know they beat Stormers last week or the week before, but even in that game, they didn't look convincing. It took 5 injuries from Stormers for them to actually succeed.
And then Manny missed a kick.
Yeah. And they would have gone through if they got that kick. So they just, I mean, is this a bit of the downfall of La Rochelle? I don't want to say that, but I was really expecting them to come back, but Leinster went above and beyond. I think it's going to be very, very, very difficult for any team to overcome how strong that Leinster side is this season. I mean, they're always strong, but again, this year they've knocked out La Rochelle. I mean, who stands in their way now? Maybe Toulouse, but that's a different conversation.
Well, let's have the Toulouse conversation. I mean, if the one JOUE team in UVB is out, the other JOUE team is very much still here, and they are not suffering at all. Dupont, I looked at Dupont's stats like overall in Europe so far, and he's top or second top in everything. And when I say everything, I mean like he's got the 3rd most turnovers won in Europe this season. Like what? Like it doesn't make any sense. And it's just a joke. But then you got guys like Jack Willis had an unbelievable game. You got Blair Kinghorn. They had all the fullbacks. Name an international fullback. They play for Toulouse and they play amazingly as well. It was. I mean, poor old Exeter. I mean, let's just mention Exeter first, Rose. Like, you feel sorry for them?
Well, I have a bit of a personal rivalry with Exeter because all my family support Exeter, and I'm the only Sale fan, and I get personally attacked by Exeter fans every Prem week. So not much, but a little bit. You know, I was really enjoying the game in the first half because it was pretty close. I don't know if you guys watched the game, but in the first half it was like Exeter got in front a couple of times, and I can't remember what the exact score was at the end of the first half, but it could have gone either way. And then the second half, I mean, it all fell apart for them. I did feel a little bit bad, especially because I love the look of a lot of Exeter players this season. I mean, Boboso, just even when Exeter lose, even when they do badly, he's just such an asset. I'm so excited that England have him. Once again, that's another conversation. So yeah, I felt a little bit bad, but because of my personal vendetta, I'm not really the person to speak to that. But I think a lot of English people did not enjoy watching that. It was almost a bit embarrassing, I'm not gonna lie. Because it was like, what happened? But we've seen this happen with Exeter this season. I mean, a few weeks ago they went to the AJ Bell and I was there at the game against Sale, and the final score was like 45-0 or something. Exeter have a bit of a problem at the moment when they get on the back foot, when they're a couple of tries behind, it's like it's gone. So I mean, I guess a little bit of sympathy, not loads.
You ever see that Simpsons episode where Homer becomes a boxer and his whole plan is like the other guy punches him until he gets tired and then collapses and then Homer wins by knockout? That's kind of what it was. Like there's some of the tries that Toulouse was scoring at the end, like Peter Aki's second try, he kind of flopped over the line like, God, I'm knackered scoring all these tries, and Exeter had them right where they wanted them. If that game had gone on for another hour, Exeter would have won. But yeah, just I'm not. Can Toulouse take the game to Leinster, Enda? Assuming they both get to the final. We're jumping ahead of ourselves. Sorry, English fans.
We want Quins back. No.
I think so. Like Leinster just want this so badly, and I think if Leinster don't win something this season, I think serious questions are going to potentially have to be asked. Like everyone talks about them as being probably one of the best teams, if not the best club side in the world, yet they don't have that much silverware in the last couple of years. So they need to make it happen. And I think this is the season to do it. They've beaten La Rochelle twice. Like, so I think it's down to them. But yeah, Toulouse could, like, they've such a strong squad. They, as you say, they like to JOUE. So like, I don't think it happened. But again, a massive decision made by Leinster was getting Enda in, and that's what they had to fix. And they have that grunt now. They have that defense. Yeah, I think they kept La Rochelle scoreless in that second half. Like that's how good they are now. So I think with the changes they've made, I think with just simply with that Nienaber appointment, I think that's the key that's gonna unlock the trophy cabinet, which they really desperately want. But who knows? Maybe Northampton now will go to Croke Park and beat them in front of 82,000 people.
How many tickets have been sold? Do you know?
Don't know yet, because the ticket sales are controlled by EPCR for this one, so they're not sold directly by Leinster. So like there mightn't be as much marketing and stuff behind it, but I'd say they'll still be good figures. But it's they won't sell 82,000, I don't think. Especially, no offense intended, but it's Northampton. If it was a La Rochelle game, if this semi-final against La Rochelle, I'm pretty sure they could get close.
I'm trying to think about, they've sold out Croke Park before, haven't they? Didn't like Munster in 2009 or something? Like they do, but that's obviously two Irish sides. I think
Munster fans don't like to talk about that day.
No, but yeah, maybe not against Northampton. I think it will be a brilliant game though. Like, I mean, I know a lot of people are saying Leinster are going to walk it. I don't necessarily think that's true.
I don't think they're going to walk it. No, I don't think so. And like Saints have worked on their defense this season. That was a big Achilles heel the last couple of seasons, and they've improved in that area. And when they do gel in attack, they're a fabulous team to watch. It could be a cracking game. I hope it's a cracking game. Like, I really hope it's not one side. I don't think it is, but I think the bookies have them at 12-point favorites potentially already.
It's a lot.
To Leinster. Yeah. Well, they're also, I think, 7-point favorites against La Rochelle. Which I'm surprised at.
Bookies' odds in Europe have been a bit odd this year, because I think they really underrated the Bulls for most of the tournament, and they were picking the Bulls to lose by quite a lot. So Rugby Kino did a great piece on how the Bulls were the most, according to the bookies' odds, overperforming team this season, even though they were playing like Sarries in Loftus, and no one wins in Loftus. So that wasn't exactly an upset. Speaking of the Bulls, I think we just just about have time. What do we make of the controversy then? So now it is reported that EPCR are lobbying the clubs to change the scheduling to make sure they don't have the 1 week turnaround anymore, to stop this kind of second squad being sent, because it's impossible at a week's notice to just fly all over the place. Rose, firstly, what did you make of the whole situation?
I'm not going to lie. I thought it was quite unfair. I saw a lot of people saying Bulls should be out of the competitions. I saw a lot of people saying it was a disgrace, they have no respect. But if you look into it, they didn't have a choice. They had to make a decision basically between where they played their strongest team. I mean, I can understand why people were like, why did they not send their strongest team to Europe? It's the biggest competition, whatever. But at the end of the day, they had to make a choice. It's so unrealistic to put your first team on a plane and have them flying all week and then play 2 games. Like it's never going to happen. So I think a rule change is definitely needed. But I thought the massive criticisms of the Bulls was a little bit unfair. I mean, I'm not sure what you guys make of it, but I just saw so much hatred towards them, so much disrespect. And I was like, at the end of the day, it is a bit of a scheduling problem. And I don't think it's that much of like a lack of respect thing. I mean, they love the URC, and I've heard. Pardon?
It's just logistics, as you said.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. I've heard a bit about like the money talk and like getting paid more for winning the URC and stuff like this. I mean, I don't really know much about that, so I don't know if that plays into it at all, and that's why they're prioritizing the URC over Europe. So that's maybe not that ethical, but like I get it. Like you said, it's a logistics thing. So yeah, I don't know what you guys made about it. What did you think?
Yeah, well, a lot of it, I mean, like that other game that you went to, Enda, with Leinster versus Stade Francais. Stade Francais currently top of the top 14, sent like the thirds to Leinster because they weren't bothered. I think we see a lot of B teams get put out in Europe. It just mostly happens in the group stage.
Yeah.
In South Africa, they're still kind of getting their heads around Europe, and this isn't just me projecting that. I speak to a few South Africans, and they're kind of not really up on it yet. Our friend Rugby AP's tweeted about it a few times. I know Ryan Lowe's spoken about it a few times, that they're still kind of like, we're coming from Super Rugby where we have the league and the league, so we don't really understand what this other thing is. And if you look at the attendances, with the exception of the Stormers, you get massive crowds no matter what. Like the Bulls have been getting huge crowds and then didn't get so much for their Lyon game. So to South Africans, because in Europe we're so used to Europe is the pinnacle and the league is secondary, apart from some French teams. In South Africa, they just don't have that view. In South Africa, the Europe is like an extra. As much as I would have loved to see the Bulls get to a semi-final of Europe, no matter who they were playing, because the underlying we don't like the South Africans amongst some of the rugby community. I just wanted to see them fume. But it's just if they've already got half a mind of, no, we want to focus on the URC anyway, and then you throw a logistic challenge at them like that, well, that's just always what's going to happen. And to be fair, Jake White did make a bit of a rod for his own back for moaning so much about the scheduling, and then he put out a B team. Yes, it's all understandable, but come on, Jake, help me help you here. Anyway, so let's talk about rugby around the world then. Enda, do you want to lead us off with telling us what happened in Super Rugby this week?
Yep, sounds good. So where are we? So the Hurricanes are now 7-0 after beating Chiefs in a brilliant top of the table clash. And Moana beat Reds. I think Moana Pacifica already have more points this year than they did the last two seasons.
They're on 13 points. They definitely won more games. They only won one game last season. This game was one of the worst games you'll ever see. So let's not speak about it too much. Oh my God. But another crazy red card in Super Rugby as well.
And let's move on to Japan Rugby League 1. The Wild Knights are still unbeaten. Brave Lupus are second after a 40-40 draw with Kobe Steelers. And then in Super Rugby Americas, Hugh, do you want to take us through those results?
Yeah. Lupus means wolf, I learned this week. Or wolves. Cobras have done the double over Penarol. Brazilian Cobras, one of our favourite teams, did the double. They're still not very high in the table. Durgos and Pampas are still top of the league, the two Argentinian teams, as you would expect. There was no top 14, there was no English Premiership, but there was English Championship. Enda.
Yeah, it's down to a 4-point gap at the top as Coventry or Nottingham. And then we also had MLR action. The Sabercats, I should say, lost to the Free Jacks. Huge game. Free Jacks are now top of the Eastern Conference, and Seawolves now sit top of the Western Conference. What went on in the Welsh Prem?
Our friend David Lawrence will be delighted with that Free Jacks performance. Welsh Prem, Newport destroyed Bridgend 89-26. Don't know what happened there in that game. They now have a 9-point gap over Llandovery, although Llandovery do have 2 games in hand. And the top 4 is all sewn up with Ebervale and Cardiff getting into the playoff places. And we'll finish off, as always, with the Rugby TV guide. Big news this weekend.
Yep, so Premier Sports are back. It's like Back to the Future. So yeah, there are a lot of games coming up. So we've got the ORC back this weekend, top 14, the Prem, Japan Rugby League 1, the Super Series Sprint. That's going to be broadcast on BBC Alba. So that's good news for fans. They're just ones off the top of my head. If you are a former Viaplay customer, you are now a Premier Sports customer. A couple of people have been reporting issues logging in. If you are having those issues, my advice would be to use the Viaplay app. It is still live until I believe the 21st of May.
That's what I'll be doing.
But yeah, because I know Premier Sports, some people have access to their new app, but some people don't. They are working on a smart TV app for Samsung devices and LG devices. So I think I would kind of bit of sympathy for them. Like, they only announced this, the end of the last quarter. It is a big deal building an app. It's not easy. So I would give them a bit of patience. The channels are live. It was a simple swap over. But the big one probably for URC fans this weekend is that there are quite a number of games now only on the Premier Sports streaming service, because they only have 2 channels now. The Free Sports channel, which was formerly Viaplay Extra, is gone and it's not coming back. So they only have 2 linear channels to work with. So you will see a good few games being streamed only, but we'll have that in our guide on Friday as always. And I think that's it from us, is it?
That's the end of the agenda. This has been a great show. I can't wait to listen to this one back.
And massive thank you, Rose, for joining us. Hopefully you'll be back at some stage. But yeah, really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. I've really, really, really enjoyed it. It's been so much fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in, and stay tuned for the big news at the end of the week for what our secret special podcast that will be uploaded on Saturday will be.
Thanks, folks.